What's up, everybody? Welcome to She Bangs. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited that you're here with me. This is the podcast for women who are building and banging in their careers, in their industries, in their lives. Women who are building big things. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Brittany Newman. I'm the host of She Bangs. I'm also an entrepreneur. I own Blue Kangaroo Packouts here in San Diego. And let's just get this out of the way right off the bat. When I envisioned this podcast, envisioned She Bangs and what it was all about, I wasn't thinking about naming it the first episode, Banging My Head Against a Wall. And that just kind of came out naturally. A lot of times podcasts feel like, or podcasters are already banging. They've already reached a level where they're crushing it and they're talking about what that process felt like. Or not even that they're talking about what the process felt like, but they're actually reflecting and they're being inspirational to us, to their listeners. And I listen to these folks all the time and I'm inspired constantly. And when I first started and thought of this concept of She Bangs, the concept was that I was going to interview people who already are banging at their careers and in their industries and in their businesses. Whatever they're banging at it already, right? And I do still want to bring that into the podcast, but I think a more natural progression and what I'm seeing right now of a need is to talk about the building phase. And so right now I'm in the building phase of my business, Blue Kangaroo Packouts, and it is definitely not the banging phase. I have not reached that phase yet. I will eventually. It comes in time, and it comes for people who do want to build big things. And so I know it's a reality, but right now I'm in the building phase. And so I wanted to bring you guys along and enter into this phase together. And I want to talk to you guys about how it feels to bang your head against a wall and how you start to kind of have to love it, because there is this phase of building and getting through things that you have to do. You just have to do. And I'm in it now, and I'm so glad you guys are here. Let's start off with what we're talking about. Okay, so here's the truth in business, right? And here's the truth about when you're banging your head against a wall. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're failing at all. It's actually more banging your head against a wall. I could also compare that to resistance training. If any of you guys work out, I work out a lot. If any of you work out and you're putting your body through heavy resistance training on a regular basis, you know that you're growing your muscles. Your muscles grow when you're under resistance. And you can apply that to business as well. There's 3 things that I've learned during this resistance phase or during this banging my head against a wall phase that are kind of keeping me going and that I've learned are really important. Number 1 is clarity. Number 2 is creativity. And number 3 is grit. Number 3 is probably the most important, but let's get into what we're talking about. Okay, so number 1, clarity. For me, clarity means, or has meant lately, figuring out what actually moves the needle in my business. There's a lot of distractions that you can find as a business owner. She Bangs might be one of them. That's real life. But you got to find the things that actually move the needle of your business. Okay, so right now, when I am in this phase of build in my career, the thing that's moving the needle the most is cold calling. Yeah, you heard me. I am cold calling. If you guys thought cold calling was dead, it's not. It's alive. I'm using it as a strategy, and I know a lot of other people who are doing this, and it is a way to get your name out there. And let me tell you something. Cold calling sucks. It fucking sucks, and it's uncomfortable. And it's also one of those things that when you start to do it over and over and over and over again, you become stronger and you become more able to make those cold calls. And I've also learned that cold calling combined with dropping in, walking into somebody's business, those are a very powerful combination. So those are the 2 things, cold calling and walking into people's offices and saying hello. Those are the things that move my needle. And if I take a step even further, like what are those actually moving for me? What needles are moving when I'm doing cold calls and cold walk-ins? It's building that pipeline up. I have to have a pipeline of leads because you have to have so many leads to generate an actual opportunity to then generate a sale and actually do work. that builds the top of my funnel. And that's why clarity into what actually moves the needle for you. And that could be different depending on the industry you're in. That could be different depending on the role that you're in. Maybe you're not building your business, but you're actually a high performer at a company. And so you need to figure out what are the things that you have to do to move your needle. For me, like I said, it's cold calls and cold drop-ins, and that's what's building my pipeline right now. So clarity means finding out what it is that's important to moving your needle and doing it. Act on it. Don't make up excuses. Probably don't start a podcast, even though this is really fun. I'm having a lot of fun already. But the point is, act after you've decided what is it that's going to move your needle. The second thing is creativity. Okay, I'm not talking about creativity like jumping on Canva and creating a really cool marketing flyer, which, by the way, I love doing. I'm talking about creativity when it comes to actually doing the job. I had a job a couple weeks back where it was a 4-day job and I had to drive pretty far. So I had my crew with me. I had 2 guys who were a part of my crew, so me and 2 guys. We worked all 3 of the days, the 3 of us. And on the 4th day, my guy, he called off unexpectedly in the morning. So I'm there, I'm ready to work, and the guy calls off. Okay, so it's day 4 out of 4. I promised that I was going to get this job done. Also, the homeowner had a painter coming into town the very next day. That was like, shit, what am I going to do right now, right? So it's just me and this other dude. I didn't take a lunch that day. We definitely worked as fast and as efficient as we could on this job, making sure that the pack out happened, and just working very efficiently that day is what made us successful. We had to work a little bit past our time that we wanted to do, and there were just a few sacrifices made that had to be done. I mean, I had a timeline, right? I'm the one who set that timeline. And so that was another place where I'm like, okay, I'm against a wall. I had to creatively find a way to either get through the wall or get around the wall or over it or whatever the case. And that's what we did. We just worked harder and I worked longer and didn't take a lunch, right? So creativity is about finding the things when you come up against adversity, when you come up against this wall that you're banging your head against. How do you then move through the wall creatively or around the wall creatively? That is also what sets you apart as a leader or as somebody who's building something great. There are so many ways to just give up. There are. But if you're here and if you're listening to this, you're not a give up person. You already probably know that you have to find a way through the wall or over the wall or around it or whatever. So I am curious to know what creative ways you guys have been experiencing to move through something adverse in your career. Let me know, drop a comment below, and I would just love to hear about it. Now we're to number 3 already, which is grit. Grit, like I said at the beginning, is probably the most important thing if I were to put them all together. Clarity, creativity, and grit. And grit for me, again, comes up with cold calling. And I know I'm just talking about cold calling a lot today. I do want you to know if you're in sales and if you're making a lot of cold calls that you're going to be okay. Just have some grit and you're gonna be fine. Also, if you're not in sales and you get a cold call, I would encourage you to be nice. Just be as nice as you can. It's fine. It's not gonna kill you to take a cold call. And also, you can just hang up. Who cares? And that's the point about this whole cold calling and grit and why it's something we should learn about. When I'm making cold calls, I realized that there is literally no downside to cold calls, okay? And yes, it really sucks picking up the phone and dialing a number and hoping that you're actually gonna get the person that you wanna get on the other line. So right now I'm calling insurance adjusters, for example. These people are really hard to find. Insurance adjusters are just out there floating somewhere that I am still trying to figure out. If you know where they are, let me know. If you know an adjuster, if you are an adjuster, please call me. I want to talk to you. You can cold call me. No, but seriously. So right now I'm calling a list of adjusters because adjusters are a referral partner for my business. And there's a tool that I use online, a software tool that actually compiles a list of people in my area. And there's some phone numbers that are given. And so I'm able to call them. Sometimes it's a direct line, a mobile phone number. And so I'm calling a person on their cell. And that's actually the best. That's the optimal possibility for me. Sometimes it's the corporate number. And if you've ever called a corporate insurance company claims department, it is a nightmare. Also, if you have to actually initiate a claim, you have to do this anyway. So this is a little bit of education for people who are dealing with their homeowners, or maybe you're a renter and you have a claim at your house that you have to file. You have to call this automated line anyway. It's like a division where you call the phone number and then there's a bunch of prompts and you can hardly ever get through. But when I get through, right, and I find a way to get through, I often am talking to people who are asking me, what's your claim number? And I'm like, well, I don't have a claim number. I just need to talk to John Smith. And they're like, I'm so sorry, but I don't know the claim. Like, what's your claim number? So they are limited on their end. And I totally get that, right? Like, and they're probably really annoyed by me that I'm calling them. So I get that that's not optimal. And honestly, it's very hard to get through on that side anyway. So it's probably best to just send emails in that case. But what I'm doing every single time I get off that call is I just built up a little bit more grit, because the best thing that could happen is somebody answers the call and I talk to John Smith and I'm able to give my pitch. And I have my pitch written out on a Word document. And so I know exactly what I'm going to say every single time I make that call. That's the other thing that kind of allows me to do these calls over and over and over again, because it's something that I'm already just like practicing. It's like practice. And every time I do that call, I get a little more over myself. And so I think that's what grit does for you, is if you just do something over and over and over again, you're just building up this muscle of like, okay, let's do it. There's really no downside. Again, I would encourage you, if you're in sales and you're doing cold calls, just remember that there is literally no bad thing that can come from a cold call. When you realize that the worst thing that can happen is that they're just going to hang up on you, great. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. They're just going to hang up on you. Fine. You're going to call them back anyway. The day that rejection stops scaring you is the day that you become really dangerous, because now you're just like, who cares who I'm going to call? Because I only have an upside here. So again, your grit might be different than my grit. My grit right now that I'm experiencing is making those cold calls. You might have something completely different, but whatever it is, keep doing it repeatedly and you will see success. You just will. And also you'll just get over yourself, which is the biggest hurdle. So those are the 3 lessons for me right now while I'm banging my head against a wall: clarity, creativity, and grit. I think once I can figure out the ways to deal with that adversity that you're hitting, that adversity that I'm hitting right now while I'm building my business, being clear exactly on what moves my needle, being creative when I do have something that is adverse, how do I get around it or get through it, and grit, doing the thing that sucks over and over and over again. That's how I'm building my business right now. I hope that you can take something away from that, and I hope that you can apply it in your own life. Right now, some episodes are just going to be me talking to you like this, and I'll definitely be asking you questions. I have already asked a few questions of you guys if you're following along on Instagram, and I've already gotten some really good responses to what you guys want to hear about. So as much as I can, I will incorporate the things that you guys are telling me you want to hear about into this podcast. I am going to keep asking you, and please keep telling me truthfully what you want to hear about on this podcast while we're building into those bangers that we're going to be eventually. The other aspect of the show that I'm going to bring in is to interview other people. I have this idea that I want to interview people who are already banging in their careers and who have 5-star reviews in their businesses, or who are just absolutely crushing it in their roles. So it's not just always going to be me talking. It's sometimes going to be other people talking as well. If you're interested in actually being on the show because you are already a banger in your career, and you want to tell people how to do it, I want to hear from you. So drop a comment or just DM me. Let me know if you want to be on the show. This whole point of my podcast is to leave you with a real experience while I'm building this business. I want you to know and you to feel like it's a real thing. And so I thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for watching episode 1. If you liked it, hit like, hit that subscribe. You know, it's funny. I always give my husband shit because he says it all the time in his videos. He has a YouTube channel as well about fishing. And I just said it for the first time and it feels really good. Hit that subscribe button, you guys, because I'm going to be bringing you some more banging content going forward. All right. Thanks so much for listening to She Bangs. And until next time, keep building and keep banging. Bye, y'all.